Our father, Paul Ricart, started in 1953, and he had a way of doing business that the competition couldn't understand. He thought that, I'm going to take care of the customer first, and I'm going to supply everything that customer needs to be totally happy with his car. He wasn't about slamming or jamming customers. He wasn't about faking finance forms to the bank. Dad thought about one thing, and that was taking care of the customer first. That's the reason he innovated things during the 60s and the 70s that other dealers in the automobile business didn't do. He had loaner cars. He had 10 or 15 loaner cars for customers for service. That was way ahead of his time in that. The other thing was that the salespeople, he had just a few salespeople, but they really kept in touch with the customer, and they really tried to answer all their questions and deliver the product to them. They'd get their car insurance for the customers. They'd not only sell them the car, but they'd make sure the car was cleaned up for delivery. It's a different way of doing business. These people were all hands-on, and they knew exactly what every customer was about, what they needed.
Why do people come here? I mean, you can buy a Ford all over the place. Why do they come here? It's your people. I mean, it's a relationship, it's your people, and that's the reason why they come here to buy.
I look back on it now, my father was just doing business the way that it should have been done. In fact, today is the way it is done. It's a more personal relationship business. My father believed in being good to everybody, good to the customers, good to their families, good to the employees.
I'd get in a truck with him and we'd ride around, and he knew just about everybody's first name that worked for him in a body shop, in a sales. They'd be out parking cars. I've never seen anybody so hands-on. That's amazing.
Back in 1960, the rest of the Ford dealers in Columbus were fighting with my father. They were complaining to Ford Motor Company. They complained to the press. Automotive News had an article on it, a full-page article about how the little dealer stimulator, in which they called my father in Canal Winchester, was cutting into their business. The local Ford dealers in Columbus were arguing that my father, who was selling a lot of cars into Columbus, was doing something underhanded or illegal. So I'm reading out of Automotive News, as part of the investigation, the Cleveland District of Ford Division sent a team of officials to Columbus to interview over 30 of my father's customers, because they were wondering, how is this guy selling so many cars out of this little dealership in Canal Winchester? The customers were asked where they bought the car, obviously at Ricart, whether any extraordinary sales pressure was used, whether they had been influenced by a third person, and if they were satisfied with Ricart's services. Ford Motor Company came down here with a whole team of people to find out, how's this guy doing all this? He's selling all these cars. He must be making customers unhappy. And yet, per Automotive News, members of the investigating Ford team told this news reporter that they had found nothing wrong with not one of Ricart's customers' dealings. They expressed a belief that the dealer's success was attributable to a great sales organization and word-of-mouth advertising. It was in 1962, they finally got it resolved, and my dad decided to move to Columbus, where Mega Mall is now located. My father's sales grew all the way through the 60s, and in 67, built the Mega Mall. Was originally just a Ford dealership. And ironically, that was also the year of the UAW strike by the United Auto Workers, and all the production at Ford slowed down. And sure enough, my dad got the least of anybody. So it was tough times at Ricart Ford in 1967 and 68. Luckily, the car business for Ford came back in 69 and the early 70s. And then when Rickenbacker Air Force Base, which used to be called Lockbourne Air Force Base, with 16,000 airmen there, was closed by the federal government, it was another knife to the chest, and it made it real difficult for us to operate our dealership, because most of those customers bought from us here at the Mega Mall for my father's Ford dealership, because it was right down the street. In 1978, they had the oil embargo, and Ford really didn't have good products for that.
He went through some very difficult times, coming through the 60s and 70s, and there were times when product wasn't what it is today. I mean, you had cars that would rust out in 3 years, and just weren't built like they are today.
It was tough times for my father. I sometimes wondered if that wasn't a heavy burden on him that took its toll. But we endured all that, and a lot of the dealers in Columbus didn't make it. So as time went by in the 80s, that's how Fred and I were raised, you know, cleaning the shop and cleaning the showroom and washing cars in the service department and going to the parts department and working and delivering parts to dealerships around town. We were raised in the car business, but most importantly, we were part of the family business. In the early 80s, we started to change things here at the company. We had the recession, and it put a lot of pressure on the business model my father had created. Through that, we found a way to still keep that customer-friendly attitude, still find a way to deliver products to customers they want. And Fred, through his advertising and marketing genius, found a way to communicate with our customers to come on down and give us a chance to sell them a car. It started, and it just mushroomed so fast that it kind of caught everybody off guard. Through hard work and through flexibility and great people in this company, by 1986, we're the #1 Ford dealer in the United States. It not only shocked Ford Motor Company, it shocked all the manufacturers. They'd never seen anything like it. So we continued with our #1 ranking with Ford Motor Company in 1986 and held that record all the way till the year 2000. 15 straight years of being the #1 retail Ford dealer in the United States. And I was so proud to be able to do that for my father. My dad passed away in 1999, December 6th, and before that, the Mega Mall was already filled out. We'd time and time again, we'd received recognition from the automotive world for sales and performance, and he got to see that. And when we built the big sign out in front of the Mega Mall here, he was there for the dedication, and he got to be part of that too. The way that he had done business and the things that he believed in had persevered and succeeded for a long time. Now it's 60 years. And I think that's a challenge for everyone at Ricart Automotive, is to believe in the vision of my father, which is giving every customer a good shake, being honest with them, and outworking everybody else, giving back to the community, being part of everybody's life. And that's the success formula for Ricart Automotive.